Okay, the system is designed to do a couple of different things. First of all, it has an app that when patients call in, it will identify who the patient is. It will also transcribe the patient's request to the doctor so they could pre-screen their own calls. It gives them a chart summary, plus it gives them OB episode information, plus they can use the app to call the patient back on its own in case they may not necessarily have to call the patient back, which I'll show you in just a minute. And then it documents the entire encounter, puts it back on the patient's chart as a PDF file. So it's a completely self-documenting system. The flip side is another thing that we do is we can help answer the phones during the day. Because what we do is when patients call in, they identify themselves with their date of birth so that we can then take whatever question they have and automatically transcribe it into patient cases that go directly into Athena without anybody having to look up the patient, listen to the message, look up the patient's chart, type all that information back in, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. It's already done. You just manage it the way you would any other patient case, okay? Dr. Welling?
Yeah.
Here we go. Unfortunately, Dr. Welling, Leslie Bernstein isn't able to make this today. So I was wondering if you could give us a 1 or 2 minute overview of your experiences with the app or what you, how you think it's helped before I get into the demo.
Sure. I'm getting a reverb.
How about now?
I'm just getting a reverb like crazy, but so essentially we've been using it for multiple months at this point. Answering service. We use the CallMyDoc daily, all day long. We have it as a backup to answer our phones whenever we can't pick them up in a timely fashion. So it's a service that has provided, it's probably the best app out there that I use on a daily basis. It's the easiest way to sum it up. The ability to put a patient case in from my phone after talking to a patient is huge. It used to be that we would have unclear data from an emergency room, and yet this will connect it to the patient and I can close it. It's far superior to any answering service that I've ever experienced.
Do you have, are there any downsides to it in terms of where you think that, you know, was it in terms of like implementation or whatever, or
you saw what?
Any other practical comments on that?
Well, it's very easy to implement. The learning curve is very short. I would say most of us learned how to utilize it within a couple of weeks very, very efficiently. We found it pretty simple to use. I mean, there's still times where there can be an occasional glitch, but you know, that's true of any computerized system. But Carl's always been very quick to fix anything that wasn't working quite right. And so we're finding it to be a significant addition to our practice.
Okay, great. So what I'd like to do now is the easiest way to explain what we do is to show everybody. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to call it our Test Athena system. I'm going to pretend I'm a patient. And you're going to hear and see exactly how all the pieces of the system work in the next 5 minutes or so. Hang on a second. Somebody said they can't hear me. Can you hear me now? Is everybody able to hear me or no? If you have any problems, you could use the chat. You see the chat on the screen here? You guys able to hear me?
This is Suzanne Miller. I can hear you just fine.
All right, great. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to call into the system. Now, everything that you're going to hear and see is pretty much the way that Dr. Welling described it. What we do is we give every practice at least one dedicated phone number, 844 number, for their practice for after hours. But we can also give out multiple phone numbers because every phone number we give out can have a different set of behavior, a different set of prompts, and a different set of workflow. Also, when I call into the system, this is kind of the default way it's set up, but 95% of everything you're about to hear can be completely customized for how you want to use the system. Right now, we're in 34 states. We have OBGYNs all over the country using this system, and we've done lots of different customizations for them. We also handle 97,000 patient calls a month.
Press 1 for English.
Presione 2 para español.
Please select an office. Press 1 for Prime Clinical Test Office. Press 2 for Athena Health Test Office.
Welcome to Athena Health Test Office. The office is currently closed. If this is a medical emergency, please call 911 or go to the nearest emergency room. If you are an existing patient or calling on behalf of an existing patient, please press 2 immediately to be. Please enter the patient's date of birth by using your keypad to enter 2 digits for the month, 2 digits for the day, and 4 digits for the year of the patient's date of birth. You have entered September 18th, 1963. If this is the correct date of birth, press 1. Please wait while we look up the medical chart for the patient. If you have an emergency and need to speak with the doctor on call, press 1. If you have a question about your schedule or to request or cancel an appointment or get directions to your next appointment, press 2. If you have a question about your bill, labs, insurance, or some other message for our office, press 3.
I'll explain those options more in a second. I'm going to press 1 to reach the doctor on call.
Would you like us to return your call to 310-561-8055? If yes, press 1. Please speak the patient's full name slowly and clearly. When done, press any key. Then you will be asked for more information.
Carl Silva.
Now, please leave a detailed message. Please speak slowly and clearly. When done, press any key.
Doctor, I lost the prescription that you gave me, so I was wondering if you could call in a refill of the little blue pills you prescribed to me 3 years ago.
Once the doctor or office has listened to your message, we will contact you at 310-561-8055. You will be receiving a call back from.
Okay, so first part is you get a phone number that's dedicated to your practice. You forward your phones to it just like you would any other call service. When patients call in, they enter their date of birth exactly like they would have to tell their date of birth to a front desk person. In other words, think of it like a virtual front desk. If I would have called one of your offices today and I say, I'd like to know if my wife's lab results came in or this and that, who knows? You're always going to ask for the date of birth because that's just the way it is. If there's more than one patient with the same date of birth, we'll prompt for the first 3 letters of the patient's last name. And basically, I can guarantee you 100% if you plug this in today, patients will just start using it. There's no patient training because if they have a phone and they remember when they were born, they can get into the system. once we've figured out who they are, there's three things they can do. First thing is, if this was set to day mode, it would say leave a message for your doctor, okay? And that would transcribe into a clinical patient case. After hours, it says reach the doctor on call, and that's managed through the app, which I'll show you guys in just a minute. The second thing is something to do with the schedule. Now, when they press 2, they can request an appointment, and then they'll create an administrative patient case. They can cancel an appointment, and that will, if you want that feature turned on, it will literally cancel their appointment. But again, it behaves exactly like your front desk. So in other words, if they try to cancel an hour ahead of time, but you have a 24-hour cancellation policy, it won't let them. And the third thing they can do is they can get their upcoming appointment information texted or emailed to them. And not only do we send them all their appointment information, we'll also send them a hot link that they can click on that'll give them step-by-step directions on how to get to your office. And the reason why we try to put as much as we can under scheduling functions is because it turns out that over 40% of any calls to any front desk in the country have something to do with the schedule. So whether you're using this after hours or during the day, there's a good chance that CallMyDoc will help deal with that patient's request without anybody being even involved in the question. We can also, if you had it turned on, if you have self-scheduling turned on over in the portal, we can actually schedule them over the phone in about 30 to 40 seconds. So first thing is reach the doctor on call. Second thing is I have a scheduling issue. And the third thing exists is because in athenahealth, there's 12 different types of patient cases. So what we'll do if they press 3, it'll say something like press 1 if you have a billing question, press 2 if you need a refill. Again, these things are all programmable, but the point is that when I press 3, if I have a billing question, it's going to create a billing patient case. If I need a refill, it's going to create a refill patient case. If I have medical records question, it'll create a medical records patient case, et cetera. So these things, the patient cases can then be routed as efficiently as possible directly to whomever is responsible for them, which is how it makes an extremely efficient system to replace anything to do with voicemail, either after hours or during the day. Now, when it comes to the on-call component, I'm going to look at the app here. Now, I just happen to have an iPhone on. Sorry, it's reminding me that I have a patient call to take care of. I just happen to have the iPhone up here, but we could have an Android side by side with the iPhone, and the app would look identical. I have it set to page me. As you can see, it's calling me to tell me I have a patient call. All the notifications that I need to deal with a patient call or any other call type are entirely programmable. So I'm going to put in my PIN code. What happens is, as Dr. Welling mentioned, most people stay logged in 24 hours a day. But if I were to put my phone down, someone can't just open my app and start looking at patient information. I have to put in a PIN code. So that photo, hang on a second, here we go. Yeah, my screen's a little slow, the app isn't, so don't worry about it. The photo and the name is matched in real time to the patient's chart. So this functions we're going through here pulls the information in real time. We don't keep any copies. What you're going to get when you're on call is the patient demographics at the top. You're going to get the patient message transcribed into text at the bottom. And if for some reason the message at the bottom is funky because, a patient may be standing next to a hairdryer, you can always play it. Doctor, I lost the prescription. But the point is, I'm not getting surprised. I know exactly who's calling me, and I know why they're calling me, and so I can start to think about what I want to do with this. And then what you do is, with your finger, your thumb, you swipe the front of the screen from right to left like you're rotating a cube. And now I've got date of the patient's last visit and some vitals. I've got diagnostic and problem codes from the 3 most recent visits. I've got allergies. I've got the 3 most recent lab results, and also under this section, there would be all the OB episode information if this was an OB patient, medications. So hang on, just, who's this patient? Why do they want to talk to me? Right to left, what's happening with this patient lately? Even if I haven't seen this patient before, but I'm on the on-call rotation schedule. And then you swipe the screen again from right to left, and you click on Take Session. Because remember, this whole thing is self-documenting. So when I click on Take Session, that means I'm about to work with a patient, and it's going to document everything from then to when I hit Close Session and put it back on the patient's chart. So no one has to remember anything. It's already self-documented. When the staff comes in the next day or Monday morning, it's just there. You just read it and do whatever it says. So if I want to call the patient, I click on this phone icon, and then I click on this green bar, and it's going to call me first, and then it's going to call the patient on a different number, which is the caller ID of your practice.
Connecting you with the patient or caller.
So I'm going to hear music on hold while it's calling the patient using the caller ID of your practice. So this is what the patient hears.
Hello, this is Athena Health Test Office calling you back. The doctor would like to speak with you now.
Okay. Echo is just because both phones are in the same room. I'm just waiting for my screen to catch up to my app here. Come on. There we go. Okay. Click on End Call. However, this little test call we did is just about a refill. So I just want to do the refill for the patient. Well, if I click on Add Response, these are all the things the app can do on its own. Send in the prescription, update the patient's chart, call the patient back and tell them where to pick up their prescription. Does the whole thing in about 30 seconds, and I don't have to talk to anybody. Or I could send instructions back to the patient, messages back to the patient. It will call them up on the phone and tell them to do whatever I need them to do. And again, I don't necessarily have to talk to anybody. So this is the part where you can screen your own calls because you already know who called and what they're calling about. You know what their chart looks like in 3 most recent visits. And now this is the part where you could say, okay, I need to call the patient or have the app call them back. So when I click on Prescribe, again, it's pulling the latest meds off the patient's chart. I could also hit that magnifying glass and prescribe any medication, but I'll just click on this. It also pulls the patient's default pharmacy off their chart. If I click on Edit, I could actually send it to any pharmacy in the country. So I'm going to click on Save Response. I also want to call the patient back and send them a message. I send in your refill, but we haven't seen you in over 6 months. So please call and schedule a time to come in for a medication review. And just for grins, this is if you have patient portal self-scheduling. If I click on Request an Appointment, this is actually going to call the patient and schedule them by itself over the phone. Now down here, there's another box. Now this is for the staff. This doesn't go to the patient ever. This is where I put a note about what I want them to do with this call when they come in the next day. Please follow up with this patient and schedule them to come in for a medication review if they haven't already scheduled it. And then I hit Close Session because I'm done. That's it. Now the app is going to take care of everything I just told it to do.
Hello, this is the office of Athena Health Test Office returning your call. A patient at this phone number contacted us with a medical issue. We are calling back now with the doctor's answer. If you are the patient or a HIPAA-authorized individual, press 1. Athena Health Test Office has the following information for you. You can repeat this information at any time by pressing 1. Please listen to the entire message. This message has 3 parts. Part 1. The doctor has prescribed the following medicine. Advil 200 milligrams tablet. Daily. The prescription has been sent to the pharmacy. CVS, pharmacy number 9607. Located at 901 Silver Spur Road. Please call the pharmacy to confirm it is ready at 310-377-6745. Part 2. I sent in a refill, but we haven't seen you in over 6 months, so please call and schedule a time to come in for a medication review. Part 3. The doctor has requested that you schedule an appointment. Press 1 to repeat this information. Press 2 to confirm you heard this message. Please choose your preferred scheduling method for your follow-up appointment. Press 1 to hear the next available appointment time. Press 6. Please wait while we search available appointments. The next available appointment is 9 a.m. Tuesday, November 5th, 2019, with John Carter 1500. Press 1 to schedule at this time. Please choose one of the following. Press 1 to confirm your appointment. Please wait while we book your appointment. Okay, we have confirmed your appointment for 9 a.m. Tuesday, November 5th, 2019, with John Carter 1500. Please make a note of it. Would you like us to text or email you your appointment confirmation? Press 1 to send confirmation by text. Thank you for calling. Goodbye.
So, patients call in. You forward your calls to the CallMyDoc system. Patients call in and identify themselves with their date of birth so that the doctor on call, when they get the call on their app, knows exactly who's calling and what they need to do with that call. This last piece here that you see on my screen is what we call the admin panel. So let's say that I come in on Monday morning or I come in the next day. I might put a note in here. You can work it from this side, or you can also work it from the patient case side, which I'll show you in a second. So when I click on this, it changes it to my name, and also just put this note on that patient case, which I'll show you in a second. If I click on request, I can read what the patient said and listen to it. Response is a summary of the actions that the doctor took when they were on call with the patient. And then the session log is a detailed log of every single thing that occurred from when the patient called in, what time the doctor got notified, the doctor called the patient back, the doctor sent messages and a refill, what time the patient healed, all that information, etc. And then, as I mentioned, in parallel to this, it created a patient case. All right, just give me 1 second. Let me pull up the patient case here. I'll go right to it with a document search. So again, we coordinate. We put the patient case ID in the session log, so you can go right to it from the CallMyDoc dashboard. Or these are just coming in as normal patient cases. Again, you can work this from the patient case side without ever having to touch the CallMyDoc dashboard. The only time you have to touch it if it's this other call type that may or may not be mapped to a specific patient. So here's the note I left, right? So if I was working this patient case or looking at it, I'd be, oh, okay, somebody's already handling this from the CallMyDoc dashboard. Now, you remember when I said when the patient called in, it can create and map their question, transcribe it directly into these different types of patient cases. And when I scroll down a bit, it's always the first time the patient calls in, it's always going to create a transcription, because this may not have had anything to do with the doctor, wouldn't even bother the doctor if it's a billing question or whatever. Again, everything, keep in mind, everything you're seeing can be customized and programmed according to how you want to run things. This is just how we have it set up for demonstration purposes. In this case, the doctor did work with the patient from the app, so there's a little summary of what happened here. And at the bottom, there's the note, which is the most important thing. Now, since I happen to have in a little demo system, patient case, self-scheduling turned on in the portal, the patient already scheduled their own appointment for the 5th of November. So I could click on View Actions, and I could click on Scheduled, and then I click on Save, and that's that, theoretically. There we go. Now, what's going to happen here is we synchronize between this dashboard and Athena every 5 minutes or so. So closing out a patient case is the same thing as clicking on this archive button. I'm going to do it by hand so we don't have to wait, so I could show you one other feature we have in the system here, which is when you close the patient case or you click on archive, either way, it then is going to take all that documentation, put it back on the patient's chart under phone message, other documents, phone message. And here's everything we just did, with a summary at the top and the detail at the bottom. And there isn't any way yet to attach a voicemail to a patient case, to a patient chart in Athena. But we've kind of done it, because if you click on View Original Image, all these blue lines become hot links back to the original recordings, because we keep this stuff forever. So it's always going to be available to you from the chart. So at the end of the day, we wind up with a dashboard like this. Okay, here's the daytime dashboard for Manchester OBGYN. And you can see a couple of different things here. Hang on a second. Somebody has. So what you've got here is basically, this is everything that a live person couldn't answer. Now, this is currently, it says after other hours. That means that they're at lunch. So if I call in the system directly, it's going to say, I'm sorry, we're currently closed for lunch, et cetera, et cetera. And we sort all this stuff out according to different types, whether it's urgent, whether it's non-urgent. It's got a medication question here, appointment request here, and there's no box here that says billing or refills, because there's no question of that nature in the system. So you can, obviously you look at your Athena system, you've got a dashboard here of everything that's happening with the patient cases. But you also got this other view. And the point of this is that if a stat lab result comes in at 4:50 on a Friday evening, it's not going to sit accidentally in a voicemail. You're going to have it right here on this whole dashboard. Now, as I mentioned, there are some call types like other, where you're going to have to look at the dashboard because it may not be connected to a specific patient chart. As a matter of fact, this could just be a new patient.
Hello, hi. My name is Vera Mraz.
71184. Okay, so that says 71184. No, it doesn't match any of those names. So we can actually use the system to map these calls back to specific patients. The other thing we can do is if I click on this, I can move these calls around to different dashboards. I could show you 1,000 other features, but I think I'm going to leave it at this point because I don't want to take up a huge amount of your time. And before I flip it back to you guys, I want to mention, in order to try out the system, we don't charge any setup fees whatsoever. There's no consulting fees, there's no customization fees. You get a minimum 30-day free trial. And it's that simple if you'd like to try it out with some of your patients. And now I'm going to unmute everybody So if people want to ask questions, or I'll also open up the chat line. Oh, we're getting feedback again. I'm going to have to shut that down. Okay, let me click on the chat line. So does anybody have any questions? Oh yeah, that's a good point. So the cost, I forgot to say that, I apologize. So there's nothing up front. If you decide to keep it, it's $99 for the first provider, $29 per additional provider per month, and that's it. There's no other charges, there's no other fees. There's no cancellation fee. You can cancel at any time, there's no long-term contract. And in addition to that, if you called us up 3 months from now or a year from now and said, hey, we need to make changes to the system, or I need this and that, we don't charge for any of those changes or features or upgrades as well. We just try to keep it as simple as possible for everybody involved, so you know exactly how much you're paying a month, and it's a very manageable relationship. And we're constantly looking for feedback. We've added a number of new features to the system. For instance, hang on, I'll leave that chat open. Yeah, so here's the way it works. If you use the system only after hours, it's the first provider that's on the call schedule is $99. Each additional provider on the call schedule is $29. If you use it 24 hours a day or just during the day, it's $99 for the first provider, $29 per additional provider per location. But we don't double count stuff. So like, in other words, in Manchester's case, I think they have, I'm not sure how many providers they have. I can't remember. But in any case, you know, if you're using it already during the day, it's not going to double count what you pay for in the evening, if that makes sense. This is a feature that was requested by Leslie Bernstein, this little plus sign here. Because let's say that Dr. Welling's not in the office, or he's someplace, I don't know. Maybe he's at the hospital because he's got to do a delivery, or maybe something else is going on. This will just take 2 seconds. Let me just pop this on the screen if I can find it. Come on. There it is. Okay. Oh, there it is. Okay. So here's another feature we have. Let's say that there's an emergency. Hang on. Yeah. Does this include holidays? Yeah. The cost we just described includes holidays. It's $99 for the first provider, $29 per additional provider on call. That's the after hours pricing. And the 24-hour day pricing, or the daytime pricing, which also covers after hours completely, is $99 for the first provider, $29 per additional provider per location. And we can take it offline at some point. We could discuss that in finer detail, but that's the way it's currently set up. In any event, let's say I have to page Dr. Welling if there's a problem. Let me get this junk out of the way. All right. When I click on that plus sign, I have the ability to push any call type I want to any provider. So let's say that there's a problem with this patient and I need him, I don't know where he is, but I need to find him as quickly as possible. So I look up that patient's chart because I want to push him this chart. And then I go down here and I'm going to put a message in. It pulls the patient's, the phone number is off of their chart, but let's just say I want to put in a different number because it's the hospital. I'm going down here and I want to look for Dr. Welling. And then I hit save. Within 2 seconds, he's going to get that notification on his app. Maybe 3 seconds.
You have a patient call.
There it is.
You have a patient call.
Yeah, my screen's a teeny bit slow. I apologize for that. But in any event, so I get a patient call. And I want to open my app. Come on. What are you doing? All right, let me just put the app back on the screen here for a sec. Great. Okay, so I go into my app. I got paged. And I got the message from my office. Well, it looks like a normal call, except the difference is the note at the bottom is not a transcription of the patient. It's a message from the office.
Carl Silva, this patient is at Torrance Memorial Risk.
Swipe the screen from right to left. Swipe the screen from right to left. Hit take session. I hit the phone icon. So let's say I call him back. That's a fake number, but I call him back. Then I go down here. I contacted Torrance Memorial. We need to have this patient come in for an ultrasound tomorrow. Hit close session. Now this is me back in the office here. So I'm back in the office and boom, okay. I got feedback from the doctor about that. Again, it's another way to make things very efficient. Does anybody else have any other questions? I also plan on making this available from, I'll send it to Barb as a link so you could look at it later if you want. Either if you'd like to try it out, you can either email me or email Barb. And then we'll just get you set up and you just try it. And if you don't like it, no problem. It doesn't cost anything. It's just a pretty simple process. Okay?